Tyler Swanson, welcome to Lunch Break.
Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. You are the youngest Wake County School Board Chair in history.
Yes.
That's huge. How does that feel?
Well, you're living the dream. You never know what you're dealing with, but you have to do it with a little grace and humility. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. We're going to start off with your order. So what did you get? Talk us through the meal today.
So it's a little basic because typically I would have done a burger, but I know a burger on an interview is not the best thing. So we just got a strip tray with double Cajun fries and a cheer wine. So
you can't go wrong.
You can never go wrong with that.
I went with an M&M milkshake, hush puppies, Cajun fries, and chicken tenders because I was also worried that I would be wearing it by the end of the day. Wanted just to give a little bit of a background on you.
Sure.
We know you as the school board chair, but you have a long background in activism and civic engagement. So give us kind of your spiel, where you're from, how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So grew up, born and raised in Guilford County, outside of Greensboro. So close-knit family, never, ever in a million years imagined I was going to be an educator. Ran from it. I have an uncle that's an educator, former superintendent, aunts that were in education, cousins. So I knew I did not want to go in that route. But you know what they say, if you want to make God laugh, I guess tell me your plans. So didn't work. I thought growing up I wanted to be an actor. That's what I thought. Because I would sit back, of course, I'm from the South, so the church is a huge pillar in things.
Yes.
So I would sit in church and I could mimic and just come home and mimic everything that I saw. Did not know what the preacher was preaching about because I really wasn't paying attention. I was just really studying different folks and, I could do a great job of imitating them. So thought I wanted to become an actor. Then I realized that actors don't make a lot of money. And so realized after finishing high school, thought I wanted to become a lawyer. That almost worked. But I will say my experience at A&T really shaped who I am today. So I went to A&T as an industrial engineer.
Wow.
Because I thought I wanted to become an engineer. Again, college is all about finding what you want to do, your passion.
That's why you go.
Did that for a year and then realized that is not the route for me. I always knew I loved to talk and always wanted to figure out how to make systems work and how to make systems work for all people. So went literally next door into Gibbs Hall, which is where the political science building was, and changed my major. And the rest was history. I think, you always go to a school, or at least at HBCUs, there's always different type of folks on campus. So I guess I was a little Hellraiser activist because I challenged any and all forms of injustice.
Yeah.
And that is the legacy that we have at A&T. And I'm glad to see that that legacy is continuing with the next generation of Aggies because we stand on the shoulders of the A&T 4, who really paved the way to bring injustice to the forefront and allowing young voices, student voices, to shape history the way it's been shaped.
Absolutely. And this interview is so timely because just yesterday I was at A&T for their walk for early voting since their polling place was taken away. You have a lot of experience when it comes to activism and organizing around polling places. Can you give an overview of what that looked like for you? You did so much incredible work that I think this new generation that we saw yesterday would be excited to hear.
Yeah, well, before Moral Mondays, which 2013, so I'm an older Aggie. I've been out of undergrad 10 years now, but still it is what it is. But at that particular time in 2010, was at A&T's campus from 2011 to 2015. So around 2012, 2010, that's why I was going with 2010, we saw North Carolina General Assembly flip for the first time in history. All three branches were hijacked through an constituted legislative body, i.e. gerrymandering, and that's how they've been in power for 16 years now. But that took place in 2010. 2012, it was an election, a presidential election, which was the first time I was able to actually vote in a presidential election. We had a polling site on campus. 2013, municipal election, there was not a polling site on campus. 2014, I believe there might have been a polling site. It might have went into at the time, it was the new academic building. I know that building has changed now, so whatever the new name is, I'm sure it's a great one. But we realized then in 2013, when the General Assembly took over, they introduced House Bill 589,
Hmm.
which at that point was one of the most restrictive, voter restricting pieces of legislation in the South. And the companion bill for that in the Senate was Senate Bill 666 from Rucho. Um, and Rucho was on the Senate floor and said, now that the headache has been removed, we can move forward with the rest of our plans. The headache that he was referring to was the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And Southern states like North Carolina and so many others had to have pre-clearance before they could change change any voting laws,
Hmm.
which meant if they were enacting new voting laws,
Hmm.
the federal government would have to review it, give it the yay or nay, and move forward. That all came after the bloodshed of Bloody Sunday and Selma.
Yeah.
So all of the civil rights and civil liberties that we have won was on the backs of someone else. And for the senator at the time, former senator, to say now that the headache has been removed, let's just gut through and restrict people's voting rights was alarming. And so
Yeah.
I was a student at A&T. We began to organize, mobilize, and just raise hell in a good
Yeah.
way. And I'll never forget, I called at the time North Carolina Representative Alma Adams. She was our House member. And I said, Representative, we have some students here. We're pissed off about what's happening, and we're trying to do something.
Yeah.
I believe we're going to go down to the Board of Election, the Board of the DMV, because that
Hmm.
was right down the street from Market Street.
Yeah.
I said, we're going to chain ourselves to the door so no one has to buy an ID. And she kind of laughed at me. She's like, I understand where you're going. However, let's not focus on the DMV. They are a state agency.
Yes, that's fair.
You need to come down to Jones Street.
Yeah.
And if you can get to Jones Street with some students,
Yeah.
we'll take care of the rest. I was like, well, I said, college is all about raising good trouble. I
Absolutely.
was like, well, I think, not towards it, we really want to get in some trouble and do something
Yeah.
that can cause us to get arrested. Um, because that's really what we want to do, is dramatize the fact that they're getting ready to restrict so many
Yeah.
students' voices in the electoral process. So fast forward, this took place around April. Nope, it took place, the first Memorial Monday was April 29th, 2013. This took place, I want to say, around March-ish.
Okay.
And so we had students from Shaw University, UNCG, Guilford College, Greensboro College, Bennett, A&T, and we gathered in Raleigh. And um, we actually borrowed this from the No Hate campaign from 2010, when the legislative body at the same time passed some
Yeah.
legislation that was also just vile.
Yeah.
But we took tape as they were debating House Bill 589 on the floor of the House, and taped our mouths. And we had various sayings that said, our voices will be heard, you can't silence us, and so forth. And so while they were
Yeah.
debating the bill, we sat there for 4 or 5 hours in this House gallery listening to them talk about how lazy folks are, essentially, and why it's so easy to get an ID to go vote. And here we are now, what, 13 years later,
Yeah.
still having the same conversation. And so
Yeah.
that work was very important to really show the power that you have in numbers, organizing, agitating, and then having a cause to
Yeah.
push for folks too. And so key parts of that bill, which same-day registration was a thing of the past, and it was a midterm election
Yeah.
in 2014, which,
It's crazy.
we have Tillis won that election,
Hmm.
but certain parts of that legislation was rolled back.
Yeah.
Sued in the courts, won in the courts, and the U.S. Supreme Court, or it was the Fourth District,
Hmm.
Fourth District stated that the North Carolina General Assembly targeted Black voters with almost surgical precision with their maps, and we are still seeing this not just at A&T,
Yeah.
but we were seeing this out east. And
Absolutely.
so if you want to elect folks who are going to fight for schools, who are going to be great DAs, um, county commissioners who are going to invest in public service or public goods, which is what all of us are benefiting from, that's through the vote.
Absolutely.
And they know that. If you gerrymander districts, if you dilute black and brown voices, if you stack and pack districts, it doesn't matter how much you organize and agitate, you can't beat voter suppression.
No.
And that is a narrative that we hear all the time. So, yes, that was a lot.
Yeah.
But it really just, yeah.
It's so timely to today, and it's even wilder to me that the players that were at the head of this forefront in 2013 are sitting on our state board of elections in 2026,
Yeah.
and we're seeing students have to take time out of their busy schedules
That's right.
and having to travel to Raleigh from Greensboro to even have a second for their voice to be heard.
Yeah.
And it's, I feel like we learn a lot as we
Mhm.
age and as we grow. It's unfortunate that some of those elected officials have not learned
That's
in
right.
their 10, 13 years from when they did this the first time.
Because they don't want to be held accountable. And if
No,
you have to cheat to stay in power, that's a problem.
absolutely.
So, but
Yeah.
hey, I will say redemption is key because if we look at who Tillis was when he was a Speaker of the House and when he was on Jones Street versus the Tillis he is today,
Yes.
there's some improvement. Now, I don't always agree 100% with
Yeah.
what he's said or done, but I do think redemption is needed, and sometimes
Absolutely.
folks have to have that harsh reality.
Which I think is great to see, especially in the South, because I think you hope that as people grow and learn and have been in their positions for times and move into higher positions, that they get a different perspective. And will we
Mhm.
agree 100% of the time? No, but
Yeah,
that's politics, that's life, that's
yeah,
democracy.
that's
But
true.
to see someone shift in a way that you can say, okay, I have never agreed with you the entire time you've been in office,
Yeah.
but now I'm hearing you,
Mhm.
I think shows a really cool perspective. And I think it made me glad to see that even though it took for him to retire, at
Mhm.
least he's doing it,
Yes,
because we have a lot of folks that do not,
that's right.
and it's setting, I think, a really big precedent in the South.
That's true.
But enough about Tom Tillis. I want to talk about you. Okay, so you give us a little bit of a background of what the school board does.
Mm,
Because I feel like a lot of folks, we see you, you're someone who's like on social media, very well known in that regard, but I think when it comes to what the school board actually does,
yeah.
people need a little bit of help. So fill us in. What does the school board do? What are their rules and regulations? And also, where does Wake County fit kind of in the general sense of
Perfect.
school boards and schools in North Carolina?
So Wake County is the largest school system in the state,
Mhm.
14th largest in the nation.
Wow.
And so we currently have 162,000 students
Oh my gosh.
and growing. So with that, and Charlotte Meck is the second largest, so we're the two largest in the system, in the
Yeah.
state. But school boards have to answer to three different entities of government.
Hmm.
The federal government, well, what used to be the federal government,
Yeah.
state, whatever the state legislator says or does, and then local.
Hmm.
So our funding comes from all three of those sources. And what we've seen, well, it's a lot of stuff that we've seen. I'm trying to filter myself because, there's children that are watching. Um, but what we have seen recently
Hmm.
is that the federal government is now attacking or dismantling
Hmm.
public education, attacking it. The state has not passed a budget.
Hmm.
Um, and so now all of the resources are now being pushed on the local level with our county commissioners through taxpayers' dollars.
That's
That's
not
where it
sustainable.
is not. It is not.
Mm-mm.
And so school systems have to answer to those three entities. In addition, sorry, in addition to that, whatever, we have three main functions, and
Hmm.
we pass policies that are not inconsistent with state law
Hmm.
or federal law.
Hmm.
Um, we pass a budget. We have a fiscal responsibility to pass a balanced budget every year, which means there's tough choices that have to be made
Yeah.
because of the climate that we're in.
Yep.
And we hire, fire, and guide the superintendent. The
Okay.
superintendent is the only employee that school boards are responsible for. Everyone else in the system works for the Board of Education.
Okay.
So although we hire, quote unquote, teachers and uh, administrative staff, we don't have a direct say in how those folks are fired or
Hmm.
where they're placed. That's the superintendent, that's their job. So the superintendent here has 9 bosses,
Wow.
which is the 9 board members. And
Yeah.
so it's a lot of things that we do get to do.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things that we cannot do.
Yes.
And so for an example, one thing that I enjoy looking and working collaboratively with other school districts. So our neighboring county, Durham County, I've been able to work closely with Bettina, who is their chair,
Yeah.
to kind of bounce ideas and saying, hey, this is what we're doing. How does this work? We're looking at this policy. Help me understand
Yeah.
this. So policy is our biggest chunk of our work,
Okay.
because policies can be updated. And as having a policy background,
Yeah.
a policy that works today may not work in the next 5 days or 5 years.
Should always be shifting.
So you have to evolve your policies. And so
Yeah.
that's the work that I enjoy, um, because you get to think through it. And I look at our policies through my lens as a former teacher for the district.
Absolutely.
So when I joined the board, I was one of 2 educators that was on the board in 2022, but the only one that taught in Wake County Public School System. And so,
Is that normal
well,
to not have teachers on the school board?
well, yes, yes.
Okay.
But I will say it's a lot to it. I mean, my perspective was
Yeah.
limited to my classroom, but that experience really does and continues to ground me in some of the decision making that we make. But
Yeah.
I do believe we need more educators in every level of government that are making decisions about education,
Yeah.
whether it's at the local level, the county level, the state general assembly, where God knows we need more teacher voices on Jones
Yes.
Street, and at the federal level. So yes, and I will say that since we just got through all this wintry weather, we do not make that decision about school being closed. That is under the purview of the superintendent. The superintendents are responsible for day-to-day operations. The only thing that we get to approve are calendar changes,
Okay.
which I think you might have saw that March 3rd is a teacher workday for our traditional calendars. And so to make it consistent, we recently changed our year-round calendar to also be a teacher workday. So our schools are often polling sites, families can go out and engage, and they can bring their kids to go
That's
vote. So
amazing.
that's something we try to do. That's the only changes that we get to make, but everything else is policy, budget, and then giving guidance to the superintendent and building collaborative partnerships with
Yeah.
local businesses. You're supposed to be that cheerleader for your districts, and a lot of that's mainly the work that we do.
Yeah. So you said that Wake County is one of the largest school
Mhm.
boards. Raleigh is also one of the fastest growing cities in the entire country.
Mhm.
Have you seen that uptick in students and families moving into Wake County? And without a budget, is that hard to manage?
It is. So one thing that we do not like to do, which we are forced to, because when you see growth that's happening in Wake, in Raleigh, and Morrisville, Cary, the other 12 municipalities that are here,
Yeah.
we have to reassign students.
Okay.
Because the legislative body has this K-3 legislation law, which means that you can have a certain amount of students in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade. So I want to say the limit is from 18 to maybe 20 students in those grade levels.
Wow.
So when you're seeing all this growth, you have to reassign families because you cannot violate those laws. So
That displacement doesn't seem helpful for a student's learning.
it does not, and
Mhm.
those are assigned. I mean, we just had a reassignment later. Well, last part of gosh, this is 26. So sometime in 2025, we did a
Yeah.
reassignment, but it's because of growth. And so when you are able to be collaborative with your municipalities,
Yeah.
we can help, guide some of their decisions, not necessarily tell them how to develop, because I don't want them to tell us how to govern
Right.
over here, but
Yes.
being thought partners, say, hey, this is going to impact this.
Yeah.
So,
And when you say moving students, is that moving classrooms or is that completely different
so that's
schools?
moving schools. So
Oh
for an
my
example,
goodness.
if I'm trying to think of, we
Yeah.
Apex is growing just as rapidly as Raleigh.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of shift and movement in southern Wake County, southwestern Wake County.
Mhm.
So families that went to Turner Creek may have gotten reassigned to a White Oak to make sure that the balance is there. Because the other
Wow.
thing is, there's so many different formulas that the state has as it relates to education.
Yeah.
And every student is a part of a formula.
Yes.
So if a school has a declining enrollment and school B has a growing enrollment, we have to balance the population. So that
Absolutely.
means that some of the students in school B will be reassigned to school A, and that doesn't often sit well with families. And so
No.
I tell every family that either speaks at public comment or emails me about it, all of our schools are great.
Yeah,
and they can be even greater with your gifts and contributions to help improve school culture.
absolutely.
Um,
I'm someone who went to public school and got reassigned in fifth grade
mhm,
from a school that was lovely and had been around for almost
mhm,
decades and decades to a brand new school. And I remember being in fifth grade and just trying to understand why I was moving and why I
yeah,
was leaving my friends and how just getting used to a new space was a
it
challenge when it
is.
came to how do you explain that to a 10-year-old?
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure that's something that's hard for everyone to
It
navigate
is.
because it's great. Growth isn't a great thing. It
It
means there's
is.
more families here. And
Yes.
also, two things can be true at the same time
Yes.
that creates difficulties with displacement in that way.
It does.
You had mentioned that you were a teacher previously,
Mhm.
and I feel like what you did not mention is that when you were a teacher,
Yes.
you were a teacher in this thing called the pandemic.
Yeah.
What was that like, and how have you seen the pandemic impact students, teachers, everyone in the school system today?
Well, that's part of why I ran for the board in 22. So I was there before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and then that transition to blended learning.
Yeah.
Um, and I will say before, we knew these challenges exist in education
Hmm.
before the pandemic. What the pandemic did was just exacerbate
Yeah.
these challenges. And honestly, and I've said this, so it's no secret, I think we we lost an opportunity with the pandemic.
Yes.
We had an opportunity to reimagine what school looked like, to help close those achievement gaps, to ensure that schools were a place, and still is a place, where teaching and learning can take place.
Yeah.
After the transition in, I feel like we went back to normalcy. And normalcy was,
Not working.
it was not. Thank you, because I was trying to figure out a very nice way of saying that. And what we were able to see with, we had additional federal dollars coming in from the pandemic
Yeah.
to help address mental health, to address some of the gaps, because for some of these students, schools are a triage.
Yeah.
It's their safe haven.
Schools are where some people, the only place where people are able to eat.
Correct.
So this is,
So
yeah.
having those federal dollars to really help invest helped really balance the playing field. And
Mhm.
thinking about those rural counties that needed more attention and love and resources, all of those dollars have now dried up.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing a dismantled Department of Education without providing resources to students. And so,
Yeah. And I think we've seen policy acknowledgement that there are counties in this state
that's right.
that get less funding than
That's right.
others, and that's been a case that's been going on for
As long
a
as,
decade now.
correct. Well, for some, it's been going on as long as 30 plus years through Leandra.
Absolutely.
So education, it's unfortunate that we are in this situation again.
Yeah.
But that's through policy malpractice. That's really what it is. When you're seeing a General Assembly that would rather invest tax dollars into, you know, vouchers and all of those other entities, that's problematic.
Absolutely.
Especially, and I could say if the General Assembly was doing what was best for public education
Hmm.
and then said, hey, why don't we try this for vouchers? But you're starving one entity to
Yeah.
give to another and then saying, well, public schools are failing. That's not the case.
No.
And so when I see former educators who are great teachers, but are leaving the profession because of the lack of pay,
Yeah.
lack of respect, and we are now in a crisis
Absolutely.
where we are short teachers, we're short nurses, so all of our public figures, public servants, are leaving these professions that they enjoy. I
Yeah.
was one of them. I left because teaching special education remotely, it was impossible.
Yeah.
Um, and it was a lot. I mean, no one goes into education for the income. It's
Right.
always the outcome.
Yeah.
It's seeing students, catch that aha moment or seeing them grow from when they
Yeah.
first come into your classroom till when they leave. It's the relationships.
Absolutely.
And this whole narrative around, it took the pandemic for teachers and for parents to see what was being taught. And we needed this parental bill of rights, which parents' rights have always existed. In fact,
Absolutely.
when I was a teacher, I encouraged parents, let's be thought partners. Let's sit down.
Yes.
Let's talk. Let's figure out how we can support your student. There was never this thing of, you never saw barbed wire fencing around schools
Yeah.
saying, once you're in here, parents keep out. That's
No.
not how it is. But that was the narrative
Yeah.
that we started seeing coming from legislators, not just in North Carolina, but across the South. And what we've
Yeah.
seen is if it's a copy paste type dynamic. If something works well in Mississippi or whatever, well, all of them are doing much better in education than we are,
Yeah.
um, which is a problem.
Yes.
But what you see in one state legislature will make its way through the other southern states. And that's what we saw. So this whole narrative around parents not having access, not knowing what was there was false.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the power dynamic of what a parent can do versus a teacher is very different because I think the
mhm,
pandemic showed a teacher is not just a teacher,
mhm,
they are a mentor, they are a therapist,
mhm,
they are a nurse, they are your friend. They are sometimes the only
mhm,
outlet that you're getting for a
yep,
lot of these issues. So you've
mhm,
turned into this low paying job
yep,
that is actually the foundation of how all kids thrive in the
that's right.
state that is not being appreciated.
That's right.
In one of my former jobs, I had the great privilege to meet with some student or some teachers that lived out west, and we were
Mhm,
talking about healthcare and health insurance,
mhm,
and the amount of teachers that said, "Well, I'm on Medicaid
yep,
because I make low enough of an income, and it would take too much of my own salary to afford any other kind of health
yep,
insurance." And that was gutting to me
yep,
because I mean, we know that the third grade reading level is one of the most pivotal
that's
statistics
right.
for a child and their outcomes on life. And that means your teachers have to be bought into that growth as well.
That's right.
And so for the response to be, well, now I'm on Medicaid.
Mhm,
And while Medicaid was expanded and that was amazing, we're now looking at the other side of it.
that's right.
So what happens to teachers now when they can't afford health insurance? What
Well,
do we do? It's a
it's you have to laugh to keep from crying, unfortunately.
absolutely.
And yeah,
Yeah,
it's goes back to its policy malpractice. These are
absolutely.
all policy decisions that could be rectified at the drop of a dime.
Yes. I'm sure you've seen the news that we are ranked 50th
Yeah,
and 49th when it comes to
yeah.
public education funding. What message does that send to you in your role, as well as students and teachers and just the state at large?
Well, it's a morale issue
Hmm.
because when you have teachers who, and I will say here in Wake County, when I joined the board, um, we heard from various educators and social workers who were not a part of the master's pay that the General Assembly once had.
Hmm.
And then in 2013, they ended that. And as a way for us to boost morale, recruitment, we decided to localize that and
Hmm.
pass policies that reinstates master's pay for teachers so we can recruit and retain teachers.
Yeah.
We also have one of the highest supplemental pays to help us balance. But it is hard when, I think there was a study that came out for a person to thrive in Raleigh, you had to make $101,000. We know our
In what
teachers
world?
start off at 43,000,
Hmm.
um, not including local supplemental pay, but that is that is a problem. So
Yeah.
educators, teachers are really, I mean, there's sheroes and heroes. They are the ones who make every profession possible. And
Absolutely.
I don't know how any of those lawmakers on Jones Street can sit there and say they're doing what's best for educators when their policies are showing they're not. And how can you
Mhm.
look at that educator that helped shape you? So I think there's
Yeah.
really a lot of this. I don't understand them.
Yeah.
But what I can control are very limited things,
Yeah.
is building bridges, finding ways to recruit businesses to invest because our
Yeah.
business community, they cannot recruit and retain folks to come work for their companies
No.
if their school systems are not strong and thriving. And
Yeah. I
that is
mean, education,
yeah,
childcare, livable
yeah,
wages, access to affordable housing. We have so many people moving here who are big business folks who
mhm,
want to go move into RTP, but it's a little bit of a deterrent if their kids can't go to a school
right,
that's able to accommodate the
right.
students' needs. We've talked about a lot of heavy things, and I feel like you, I'm sure, have a heavy job with all that is going on today. My question for you is how do you find joy in it? Where do you find those happy,
Mm.
light moments?
Well, it's many places. So I'll say, for one, I enjoy going into classrooms.
Yeah.
So, public comments, we hear a lot of interesting things.
Yeah.
You know, I don't believe in taking away people's First Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for that because that's how you can, get a pulse of what folks are thinking or
Yeah.
what they want to feel. But going into a classroom after a board meeting is always that, this is why I do this.
Mm-hmm.
Or running into a former student that, may have given me, a challenging time when I taught them, but then
Yeah.
seeing them, thriving in their communities, excuse me, it's an aha moment.
Yeah.
It's a reminder of why we do what we have to do. Um, and why we are trying to make this place better for future generations. And so
Yeah.
I get my inspiration from students, um, because I believe if we allow students to, number one, know their power,
Yeah.
lean into that power, they can shape this world the way it should be shaped.
Absolutely.
But it takes all of us working together. And so those are some of the ways that I find a little joy, and also just unplugging.
Yeah.
Reading a good book every now and then,
Yeah.
and turning off an email. That's the best thing. Turning
It's
off
the
my
best
email.
feeling.
It is. I have a thing where, I shouldn't say this out loud, but when system closes down for winter break,
Mm-hmm.
any issues that were not resolved in the previous year,
Mm-hmm.
2025 for once, I let it stay in 2025, and then we reimagine what 2026 can.
I
Now,
love it.
typically, if it's a problem,
Within reason, I'm sure.
they'll bring it back, but it's just unplugging, because if
Yeah.
you are bogged down with emails every day, it's no one gets into this work not trying to help folks,
No.
but there's certain problems, certain situations that requires more than what we can offer at the local level.
Mm-hmm.
And I know teachers get upset. I chaired our budget committee last year, which was a tough budget, but a lot of folks got upset when I remind them the fight is on Jones Street,
Yeah.
because that is really where everything can either work the way it's supposed to work, or work for some and not all. And
It's
what
a
we're
trickle-down
seeing,
effect.
it is. And that's what
Absolutely.
we're seeing, that things in the state are working well for some and neglecting others. And so it's important we're having this conversation right in the middle of the primary election. So if
Yes.
folks have not went out to go and vote,
Please do so.
that's one entity of how we can make some change.
Yeah.
So
I love it. I have to give you your flowers because I was able to attend a Wake County Board of Education meeting, I guess last fall. And I was originally coming on because I was supposed to be supporting in a protest kind of heated moment. I thought I'd come support the board and was just so inspired by the students who
mhm,
spoke, and the precedent that y'all have set of having students go first and
mhm,
share what's been going on. It made me so emotional to watch, especially at a time where there's a lot of negativity coming
yes,
around. And as you said, filling your cup and seeing what the students are doing, to
mhm,
be like, wow, this really sets a tone for these meetings to say, this is why we're all here.
yep,
And they're doing such great work.
they are. And that was a collective effort that we wanted to make. And, policy is where we can make changes happen.
Yeah.
And, sometimes if you don't know and understand policy, it's a way to really shift and guide things the way they should be shifted. Because I do think when you're here to talk about a book that may not even be in a classroom, it's hard to follow a student that is sharing their experience
Yeah.
about, why we need to pay teachers more, or a great thing that their teacher is doing, or something great about their school, and then you're coming
Yeah.
about an issue that it's not really an issue. Um, so I
Absolutely.
will say, I joke and I tell every other entity of government in Wake County that if you're trying to do something, you pick a school board night, I promise you can get away with whatever policies or whatever change you want to happen, because everyone comes to a school board meeting to yell and fuss about something.
Oh my gosh. If you give people an inch, they'll take a mile. But
Well,
it's also good that you provide a space for that.
yes,
Because I think at the end of the day, one, it shows there's a lack of education on who can do what
right.
in terms of level of government, which goes back to why we should be funding public schools even more. But I think also giving people the space for that. Some people just want to feel heard. And do I think that means you should be here till 1 o'clock in the morning? No. But I'm sure at the end of the day, people at
Yes,
least appreciate the opportunity
that's
and
true.
what that looks like.
Hopefully so. And I mean, you hear some interesting things.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And it's also hard. I mean, when I first joined, I had um, I didn't do well with public comment. And so
Mm.
I get reminded when I was vice chair and then now chair, um, folks that would make interesting comments. When I joined, my seat was literally the seat over here.
Yeah,
I would turn my back to them during public comment, especially if they were saying something that was racist, xenophobic, homophobic,
absolutely.
whatever ism it was, I turned my back to them. And it was not interfering with their right to address the
Absolutely.
body. It was just my way of tuning out. And then I would either have a magazine. So I would read during public comment and I would make some noise as a way of protesting
Yeah.
in a way that was still respectful. Um, or I would just get up and walk out. But I had to grow because
Yeah.
it you had to learn how to tune things out.
Absolutely.
Um,
It leads me into the next question I have for you is you're coming from such a strong activist background, and then you've had this teacher hat, and now you're in this chair role. How do you figure out what hat to wear? Does it change in terms of the days? Can you do both? Can you be in that activist role and have a leadership position like you have?
so you can do both, but you have to be strategic. And
Okay.
one thing that I have learned, and I'm a lover of history, so I
Yeah.
look to you know to those leaders that have done this work before me. But one thing I can do is I can count. We are a 9-member board.
Mhm.
I need 5 votes to get things done.
Mhm.
And my 5 looks different depending on what the issues are,
Yeah.
depending on how I want to pull. And I have tried, and I think I've done a great job of making votes as bipartisan as possible to show to Jones Street, we are a bipartisan board.
Yeah.
We can get things done, so can you. So it's strategic. It's working the phones. It's calling board members to say, hey, where do you stand on this? Where do I need to
Yeah.
move on this? Or, okay, you like this part? Let's see how we can massage this. So it's really, it's working the phone, number
Yeah.
one. And then 2 is also knowing which voices to bring to the public comment. So that's how you
Absolutely.
organize. And I keep a Rolodex of folks. I was like, I need you to speak on this issue. You have a
Yeah.
great perspective. Can you join this? So you can sit in those hats. You can wear all those hats, but you just have to know which hat to wear at the appropriate moment.
Absolutely.
I don't govern as a activist.
Yeah.
I govern as an organizer
Yeah.
because you are still organizing folks to show up, to send emails, to ensure that their voices are being heard, but you're also providing space for
Yes.
voices that are being impacted to share their stories. And that's something I learned from my time at the NAACP is it's hard to wrong someone through policy
Mhm.
and look at them in the face.
Absolutely.
So allowing them to tell their stories is powerful.
Yeah.
Storytelling is powerful. And I have seen folks come in public comment and tell their stories that have shifted the hearts and minds of some board members.
Yeah.
Some more than others, and some
And that's okay.
it's up to them to figure out how they got there. So,
I think it's such a great message for both the Democratic and Republican parties
mhm.
because you have to work across aisles right now to get anything done in the state.
And you may not agree on everything,
Yeah.
and that's fine. But I think you can at least sit down and have those conversations. And I think we have
Absolutely.
done a decent job of that. I mean, of course, things get testy when we are talking about what's right for kids.
Yeah.
And when I joined the board, I had ran because of my experience during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I ran in 22. I was just out of the classroom less than a year. So
Wow.
bringing that perspective was a way of saying, this worked. This is where we can do better. But I also was running against someone at the time who was just, I'm finding the words, but I can't,
Mhm. Mhm.
a character who
Mhm.
would roll back the protections that education provides for so many students,
Absolutely.
who would have tried to use this as an opportunity to bring extremist policies to Wake County. And Wake County's seen that before
Mhm.
in 2009. So it was important to shape the narrative around education and
Yeah.
bring that experience. And, I don't regret that. I learned, I will say, and I often tell, um, I actually had a good friend, John Easterlin,
Mhm.
share with me during public comments, like, just write down on a piece of paper, I'm a child of God, something. So therefore, it takes your mind off of that.
Yes.
And so oftentimes I do take notes, what
Yeah.
I write down, God only knows what. It just depends. But it's a way of really, you know, shifting, being
Yeah.
present, because sometimes it is hard. But
Absolutely.
I had a thought that I was going with that, but I lost it.
That's
But
okay.
it'll
That's okay.
it'll come somewhere. But I do think if we have to watch boards of education, because if you look at some of the trajectory of some of those legislators,
Hmm.
none of them besides Michelle Moore has fallen face forward in elections,
Hmm.
or that was a petty joke, but um, but they've all started somewhere, whether it was
Yeah.
serving on a board of education, serving on a soil and water,
Yeah.
serving on a city council. That set them up to go on Jones Street.
Absolutely.
So I tell folks, boards of education are very important. Those things on the back of your ballot
Yeah.
that touches you when you flip that ballot over, everything on that backside is the most important thing.
And it impacts your day to day more than
Correct.
anything
Correct.
else.
So those nonpartisan races, that's where we have to watch. Those judges that are not necessarily partisan,
Yeah.
those are important races. Who controls, the makeup of your soil and water is important. So
Yeah.
I think we do a lot of emphasis on the top of the ticket, which is cool,
Hmm.
but down ballot races is the bread and butter.
Absolutely.
And as someone who's ran in a down ballot race and in an interesting time, it's funny to see how many folks show up to go vote, but then forget what's on the back of the ballot.
It's
Um,
terrifying.
it is, and so I was like, wait, let's
Hold on.
flip the ballot over. I'm
You'll
on the
see me.
back, in the top or bottom, wherever it is. So
Yeah. My last question for you is, you are still a young person living in Wake County with also such a big leadership role. How do you find balance and just peace being able to go out and have a good time and still be in this position?
well, for starters, I do not do that in Wake County. So if I want to go out or go
That's
to a
fair.
grocery
That's fair.
store, I go outside of Wake to have a balance. But I mean,
Yeah.
I'll never forget, I was shopping, I think I was actually at a wine store,
Mhm.
because it's great, great book, great wine,
Yeah.
Jesus turned water into wine, and I like to drink it. So having that is important, but it's also unplugging.
Yeah.
Um, Going out in nature, taking a walk,
Yeah.
getting out, that's a way of finding that balance, because if you don't, you have to find a little joy in something. Um,
Absolutely.
and if you look, I mean, we're in a moment where I feel like history is repeating itself. Um, and in the civil rights movement, it was sing, it was song, it was dance, it was laughter. Those were the things.
That joyful resistance.
Yes, that is the most important form of resistance right now.
Yeah.
Because if we get so inundated of what's happening, we go down this downward spiral
Yeah.
where we feel like we're hopeless. And, I remember this quote from Maya Angelou, Dr. Maya Angelou, where she said, "We may encounter many defeats, but we will not be defeated."
Hmm.
And, when you're sitting there making decisions, it does feel as if if I make this decision, it's going to impact this. If I
Yeah.
do this, it's going to have a negative impact on this. So I have learned, number one, joyful resistance is key.
Yeah.
But number two, when it comes to making a tough vote, I have always promised folks, I will tell you why I can't vote for this. And if I can't vote for something, all you have to do is pick up the phone and I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I don't believe that constituents should have to guess where you stand on an issue,
Hmm.
nor should you surprise someone by your vote. And I learned that a lot from Monica Johnson Hostler, who was my seatmate here, who's in the
Yes.
General Assembly, was said, often tell me, if you can't vote for it, tell your why and stand by that.
Yeah.
And it works. I mean, it's also having courage to take some of those difficult stands. And sometimes courage is you are the lone vote or the lone person, but that
Yeah.
courage can inspire others. Um, and as I'm gearing up for reelection, which 4 years went by very quickly,
Yeah.
it's just thinking through, okay, so what are some of those things that I tried to achieve to justify why I need to seek another term?
Absolutely.
And I was on the fence. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it or not. But I was like, I fought hard to get here, and we still have more work that needs to be done.
Absolutely.
And there's still more fight in this. Um, and so we don't have a budget, which is problematic. But if you look at some of the work that we were able to get done at the local level, in the state budget, there is roughly about $2 million that will benefit Wake County Public Schools.
Yeah.
Those are having tough conversations with folks on the other side of the aisle. And education, I've always said, it should not be a partisan issue.
No.
Our kids that we're teaching do not come in our classroom with a D, an R, or a U on their
No.
forehead or by their names. They are there to learn, to seek knowledge, and to find guidance. And if we can frame some of those, that narrative in some of our advocacy, it can help. And when I go to Jones Street, when I tell constituents to go to Jones Street, I'm not saying that as a cop-out because I don't go there.
Yeah.
I do the same thing, but I tell the stories of students and educators that I've seen to help push and change their hearts and minds. Because again, policy is about changing people's hearts and minds.
Mm-hmm.
And that is in many, and I just think people underestimate storytelling.
Absolutely.
And that's something we saw in the civil rights movement. It's hard to beat someone or sick the dogs on someone as they're telling you their story, or as they're kneeling to prayer, as they're fighting for you. And that's what we did during the Moral Monday movement. It was, it wasn't an individualist approach. It was a collective approach because everyone in the state was going to benefit by not having, or was going to be harmed by not having Medicaid, by not being able to have clean drinking water,
Absolutely.
by not being able to have a school that had the resources, or workers being able to freely organize and use their collective power. So
Mm-hmm.
I think at the root of all of this is the power that we hold. And my power was far beyond sitting in one of these seats.
Yeah.
My power came from fighting for voting rights on A&T's campus, talking to legislators, fighting and standing collectively with folks who were on Jones Street protesting, or standing with teachers who are protesting about not being able to live and thrive in the communities that they serve. So that's the collective power that we have. And when we all realize the power that we hold, legislators can't touch that.
Mm-mm.
Gerrymandering can't touch that. So, we have power that we need to utilize and hold on to and keep that joyful resistance at the heart of it all.
Absolutely. Mic drop on that. That was amazing. Well, thank you so much. It
Thank
was a
you.
pleasure. I feel like I've learned so much from you, and you've just shared so many great messages. So I hope everyone watching will take with them.
And go grab some cookout as well.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Thank you again.
No, thank you.